There's white or red between the two good guilds, and then figure out which guild's open. You really want to be in an open guild.
So when you say the 2 good guilds you're talking about...
So the 3 good guilds here, actually, we're jumping into the pack. Maybe we should go live here. We can see Gerard flipping a Kingpin's Pet to the front. One of the good guilds is Orzhov. The other 2, in my opinion, are Boros and Gruul. I think you really want to be one of those 3 if you can. Simic and Dimir are just kind of a cut behind.
Yeah.
And here, Gerard's expressing a clear preference for Orzhov by thumbing up that Smite and that Kingpin's Pet, really 2 Orzhov cards, and not even really considering that Slaughterhorn that's hiding in the back. Slaughterhorn is certainly a great card. Here it comes to the front now. I like taking single-colored cards first because, again, it gives you that flexibility of moving whichever guild's open. I do really dislike Simic, so maybe I would just take the Pet and take a statement here. It's enough better that you might just take it.
Those are the only 2 cards really worth.
Yeah, that's one thing I would be considering there, are those 2. And here we saw Gerard take the Pet, expressing that same kind of sentiment I would have there. I would take an Orzhov card over a Slaughterhorn.
Now, we saw Ben Stark first pick a Smite in one of his drafts.
Ben really likes Smite, and he really likes drafting the defensive Orzhov decks. And he's also very comfortable drafting kind of an Esper control deck. So given that, I think for him that makes a lot of sense. And Smite's certainly very good in draft because you can get your curve low enough that you can play a 2-drop and always be able to block on 3. And here we see one of the kind of the challenge of taking that gold card first is, you know, the best cards in this pack are, well, here we see Confessor.
Found a pick on the last card.
So Gerard found one, but you know, you take a danger there might just not be an Orzhov card, where the best card here is that Halberdiers, for instance.
You prefer it to Firefist Striker?
Actually, Fire Striker, they're very close in power level. I personally prefer the Halberdiers. I don't like being as reliant on Battalion. And if you don't have Battalion, Firefist Striker is pretty lame. But here I think Gerard's just going to clearly take the Confessor.
Yeah, so Confessor is a card. Personally, I'm not as huge a fan of first picking it. It's a little weak for that, but still,
I agree with that.
One of the stronger Orzhov cards.
But again, if you want to be Orzhov, any card that has Extort is playable. Confessor's, I think, great in sealed and fine in draft. Right. And it makes a lot of sense following up your first pick. And here we see a great pack for Gerard. Basilica Screecher, probably the best or second best Orzhov common. That and Syndicatize and Grizzly Spectacle, the best 3. So it's not clear kind of which ones you want, all of them. And here is a Screecher by a mile.
I want you to explain an opinion you just voiced here. And it's one that actually I agree with. You listed the 2 best Orzhov commons as Basilica Screecher and Syndicatize, and you didn't mention Kingpin's Pet there. You said
it's certainly not Pet. No. Right. I mean, again, partly because you want to stay flexible. Mostly it's just a mana consideration. 2-drops are so important in this format. You really need to get your curve started. You can't start on turn 3. You'll just be so far behind the aggressive decks that you need to make a play on 2. So you'd much rather be able to play like a Pet on 2 and then another Pet on 3 and extort them than have that. Screecher and Screecher.
Screecher is better than Screecher Pet.
Yep. And so here, I believe Gerard took the Screecher.
He took the Screecher. So we have a Guildgate, a Prism. I personally am a really big fan of Prism in my Orzhov decks.
Because he triggers Extort, which is pretty
sweet. Triggers Extort and draws a card.
And oftentimes you actually do like to splash a little in these decks. So Orzhov's the one deck that's kind of slow enough and controlling enough that you can plan to splash in it. So I actually like Prism here as well. I don't hate taking the Guildgate. But yeah, here we see Gerard kind of echoing that opinion, and I like how Gerard's draft's going so far.
So say 4 picks in, at least I'm 4 for 4 agreeing with Gerard. It sounds like you're probably the same.
So there was certainly a time when pick 1 pack when I would have taken Slaughterhorn. I actually liked Gruul a lot early on, and so I would have taken Slaughterhorn to stay a single colored card. The more I hate Simic, the more I like just taking the Kingpin's Pet, because now I view both being a gold card. If you're only going to draft Gruul, Slaughterhorn's a Gruul card. It's gold.
So here's our first pack without a clear Orzhov pick. We have Immortal Servitude, which I think there's a lot of varying opinions on. Other than that, we have a Guildgate, and we have a Zorichi Tiger. I think that's a possible pick.
So I think the pick here, so it looks like George's figuring that it's Servitude. I would certainly be taking Corpse Blockade, I think. Actually, it's a good defensive creature. It's an early drop. I like Zorichi Tiger, who we affectionately call Zachary at SCG House. I like him in Sealed. In draft, he can be a little clunky, and you can usually get him later.
Yeah, and he's very strong, we were saying earlier in the past, against Orzhov. And, you know, there's a lot of Orzhov sealed in draft, you know, and there's not as much.
He's also a good blocker against Boros, because a lot of their guys are 2/2s, and he does some work there, too. Here again, another pack that's a blank for Gerard. He's probably going to take the Sapphire Drake and think to splashing it, or possibly pivoting into Dimir. But the awkward thing for that is his Orzhov cards here are all gold, so he doesn't have a clean pivot. He only has that one Basilica Screecher that goes both ways. And
I mean,
sorry.
No, that's fine. That's great. And even with that pivot,
that's a gift.
Definitely, Luminant Primordial. I mean, there's not really, the Slate Suit Ruffian is the only other thing even in his colors, and that's not even a card.
And the nice thing about Orzhov, because you're playing that defensive game plan, you actually can get to 7 mana.
And you can get to 7.
Yeah, so you can play, the Primordials are pretty bad in most of the decks. They're at their best in Orzhov. Both the black and the white one are excellent in this deck.
How many high drops do you actually want in your Orzhov deck? I mean, lots of times, you know, Extort functions as a high drop.
So one thing we were finding when we were testing for the PT was a lot, that's a nice little Guildgate pickup there for Gerard. I think you should take that to help splash off his Prism in that.
I would
agree.
Up
for pack 3. Any blue cards he opens in the later packs will be great. But in terms of high drops, if you just have all cheap stuff, what'll end up happening is you'll extort them a bunch, you'll get them to like 12 or so, and then they'll start playing their bigger spells. and all of a sudden you can't win the game. You're just too far behind because your extort is too marginal.
It's not actually affecting the board.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it certainly is very powerful, but it's a kind of a declining impact over the course of the game. You want to have a couple finishers in the deck. You want some way to kind of put a game away.
So he has another shot at that Corpse Blockade that you wished he would have taken. He also is now competing with Gateway Shade, and Gerard doesn't think very hard on it. He goes with the Shade.
He goes with the Shade. I think that's a fine pick. I don't like Shade that much because I think because you have Extort, you already have a lot of mana sinks in this kind of a deck.
Right, you don't really want to tap out to pump the Shade.
But at the same time, you are probably playing 18 lands, so it's a fine pick. And again, here, like, Air Maneuver is a perfectly fine trick. I like having 1 or 2 blockades in my
set. Yeah, he's passed up on 3 Corpse Blockades right now.
But maybe he'll be able to get them later. And you don't necessarily want like 3 of them in your main deck, but you do want to be able to board them in for the more aggressive decks. Like they're great against Boros.
Yeah.
Because you get to block and then also have the threat of getting Death Touch, which is pretty sweet.
So one of the things that I tend to have splashed for when I draft like an Esper control card, where I like the sacrifice creatures thing doesn't come up very often. Sometimes like Mortu Strider is a possible card for that.
You also get to fizzle Active Treason, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Or I got to, there's something else I fizzled. Sometimes you want to fizzle a Totally Lost because you don't want to draw a blank.
Right.
It's a lot of kind of incidental benefits on the sacking. One thing we missed here, but just as a quick point out, Gerard took a tower defense over the +2/+2 unblockable gate enchantment.
Over Way of the Thief.
Way of the Thief. And I think like Way of the Thief is the kind of card where there are matchups where you want it. And we're already set up with 1 blue back Guild Gate. I like picking that up there for free and just kind of giving yourself some optionality. That said, I think pack 1 went pretty well for Gerard. No bomb. He didn't get like a lot of bombs, but he has like a.
He did pick the Servitude.
Right, yeah, he took the Servitude over the Corpse Blockade.
Over the Corpse Blockade. I've had very low success with Servitude in draft.
I think it's unplayable.
Okay.
It's basically
I think that's what I was wondering if you echoed that.
Yeah, I don't think the card is remotely playable. I mean, I could be maybe overstating it a little bit.
At some point you realize you're paying 5 mana for a Grizzly Bear.
Or maybe 2 of them. It's kind of a dream scenario where you have like 5 2/2s in your graveyard. It's like maybe boarding against Dimir if they're milling you, because you can
actually get a lot of value.
Yeah. But other than that, I think the card is
at 5
really
mana
bad.
For a pair of 2 drops. I mean, now we've made it a Night Watch.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, so there's got a lot to go.
We have a situational Night Watch in our deck. That's not where you want to be.
Let's run pack 2. Interestingly enough, so some things, and I don't think Gerard has to be too conscious of this. What I like to do at this point is kind of ponder what are the people next to me, and based off what I've seen.
Especially, I think this format more than any, it's a very cerebral drafting format in that you actually care what the person across from you is drafting. You normally don't. Normally you care, are my colors open?
Right.
Here, because there's only 5 colors, quote unquote, there's the 5 guilds. If you're the only one drafting your guild, it's such a huge advantage because you get things like Kingpin's Pet 7th because no one else wants it. And once you know that's happening, you can start taking cards like Fireman Angel here, which is an awesome splash card for this deck.
He does have a Prophetic Prism. He did not take the Boros
Guild Gate, but this pack, as we can see, there's a single card for him in Orzhov, so he's going to slam this guy.
There's the Skyjack, but that's more of a Boros card than an Orzhov card.
I actually missed it. It's actually fine because it is a 2-drop, but I would take this guy, the Fireman Avenger here, not close. It's just the power level is so much higher. And again, you already have the Prism to set up the splash. We did not take the Boros Guild Gate, you're right, which would help facilitate that, but we have plenty of time.
Now, he actually seems like he's looking at the Pulpit and the Key Rune, both things that I might play, but I think he's contemplating what's going to table here, right?
What did he actually take?
He took the Fireman Avenger.
Yeah, I mean, there's a world in which you take Pulpit. I actually like Pulpit in the controlling Orzhov decks. I think it's fine, but you have to take Fireman Angel there. It's just too much more powerful. Yeah, but I think you definitely want to think about what other people drafting, what's open, because maybe you open a pack that has like Pet and a slightly worse single color card. You can take this like
Throw a Parasite. I actually prefer the Spectacle. I believe in. Yeah.
I actually like throw Parasite quite a bit, but here it's just Spectacle by a mile.
Spectacle's
the best removal spell.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things like what I would notice, I think it feels like there's a white drafter like very close to him, at least with how pack 1 played out. I wouldn't be surprised if the person passing to him is Boros, per se. I
agree with that. So that's one of the interesting dynamics is that you definitely care about like kind of is your specific guild open, but you do also care is my neighbor Gruul or Dimir, because that definitely changes kind of which complexion you're gonna have in your draft. And so that's one of the things like I really like doing, and Gerard didn't have the chance to because the packs didn't break this way, but stick to almost monocolored red or white in pack 1 as long as you can, and then branch into Boros or Gruul or Orzhov, depending on which one seems open, which is something that's nice to do. You can't always do it. Here we see right on top waiting for us another extort card, getting that critical mass of extorters.
You need usually it's like 8 or 9 is when it starts working.
Now
he also has an option here to splash Bane Alley Broker.
I wouldn't.
He was already, if he's already on the Sapphire Drake plan, the card is certainly more powerful than Basilica guards.
It is. But it's only so you really want to play it on curve, right? So one of the things I like to do with my splash cards, you want them to have an impact when you draw them late or when you draw your mana late, because you're not going to have consistently a blue on turn 3.
Right.
So I really want my splash cards to be something that's going to have a lot of value on turn 6 or 7.
And Broker doesn't.
He loses a lot. He's still certainly fine on that point. If the board stays stable, but he loses a lot of his value later as the game progresses. So I like taking the Basilica card quite a bit. It's a good on-color defensive card. It's kind of a everything Corpse Blockade wishes that it was.
And he has a huge gift here, Ogre Slumlord.
I really hope that's just a accidental flipping of the horror to the top. Yeah, Slumlord's amazing.
I mean, I can't, in a world without a Slumlord, would you be splashing the Dinrova Horror here?
You'd probably take it because there's literally nothing else in this pack.
There's a throw
Dutiful Throw. Dutiful is actually really good. I'd be taking Dutiful Throw for sure if it didn't have the Slumlord. Okay. But Slumlord's exactly what it's to see. So he knows now that to his we're passing right now. So to his left,
I mean, he's seen Grisly Spectacle.
Yeah, black's open, wide open.
At least sharp. Neither of them are black.
So it's probably like a Boros and a Growler or a Simic maybe. Because we haven't seen any white cards yet, but he can count on keep getting these black cards.
We've also seen Bane Alley Broker, Dinrova Horror, which certainly, probably at this point, you could either take the Horror or the Dimir Key Rune.
Gerard's probably feeling a little unlucky with this pack, because we're so convinced that our colors are open. Getting something that's like this bricked out here is unfortunate. He looks like he's considering Night Watch. I actually don't hate Night Watch. Okay, you're a Horror. That makes a lot of sense. So again, just keeping splashing options open. If he probably wants to pick up another Prism, to have 2 Prisms and a Gilgate to really exploit that.
He's a Key Rune, and there's a Boros Gilgate.
Gotta take the Gilgate here, I think.
Yeah, the Key Rune, how often, I haven't found, at least not, that I typically, even in straight Doors of X, never end up activating that Key Rune.
It's so underwhelming. It's a 1/4. I mean, sure, it has life. Oh, wow.
Okay, that's unexpected. I think that's the first time both of us were a little separated from where we were.
It makes some sense. So if Gerard doesn't want a double splash,
okay, so he might just
maybe he might just leave the 5 minions to the sideboard. If he wants to be single splashed, and he already has the Horror at 6 and the Primordial at 7, he might be trying to accelerate his mana, which makes some sense. I don't hate that pick. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think it's certainly defensible.
We have a counterspell. We have Purge the Profane. We have Shadow Strike and Gateway Shade.
Strike is so good. So I think that's one of the most underrated cards in the set that doesn't obviously look as good as it actually is.
So it's your pick here.
So Gerard's deck's not perfectly set up for it, but I would still take it.
Okay, I was actually I didn't mind the Purge the Profane pick there. I'm just not positive. Yeah, I didn't know how many ways he has to get the Shadow Strike in. That's
right now he only has 2.
We're only in pack 2, I suppose.
That's the thing. And here I think you have to take Swing over Death's Approach. We don't have enough mill elements to really turn on the approach. Yeah, and Gerard very quickly making the same conclusion. So Shadow Slice, kind of anecdotal story from our testing for the PT. David Heineman, who was one of our team members, showed up on the first day. He'd already done a ton of drafts, and in his first draft, he drafted Dimir and took Shadow Slice over Soul Ransom. And everyone told me he was insane. That's such a terrible pick. And then a week later, like, wow, that was just so correct. You really get it. So it's a card that I think that doesn't look as good as it actually is.
Second Q.
Pulpit here for sure.
Pulpit, yeah, I'm not
need to branch out. Like Pulpit's an effect you want to have. It's an uncommon. You won't get a lot of shots at it. Wow. And Gerard.
So Gerard seems to favor the Orzhov Key Rune more than either of us do here.
I think Gerard, if you ask him after the draft, will say he wished he took the Pulpit there. He even saw me, he shook his head a little bit as he made the pick. I think the time got to him there, and he kind of had to take one. And he seemed very unsure of that pick. Yeah. Hopefully he gets another shot at a Pulpit, because you really do want one in this deck. It just solves so many of your problems.
Right. So at this point, he's like high priority cards, and he's still a little low on his extort count. It seems like he could use another Prophetic Prism if he wants to try double slashing, and that's a criminally late Broker.
And Shadow Slice, but Broker for sure here. Yeah. So again, once Gerard passed up on that Boros Key Rune, Boros Gilgate,
he's probably Esper now.
He definitely Esper. And if he gets a Prism or 2, maybe he still plays the Avenger off of just a couple Prisms, which is certainly fine. But he's really looking to be kind of a mana ramping, heavy hitter deck. So he really wants to open something, like a very powerful 6 or 7 mana like Esper card. So
even something dorky like Lord of the Void or just something.
Oh sure, that'd be great in his deck.
Yeah.
He wants a finisher. He wants a way to end the game.
You now have 45 seconds to
also, though, he does need a little bit more removal. Like, we
I was gonna say with Bane Alley Broker, he already has a Dinrova Horror and the white and Slumlord and Primordial. I don't know if it's you still feel it's more heavy hitting that he wants. And Sapphire Drake. So
actually, I forgot about the Drake that he has too, and he has that Servitude up with his playables, which is a little. And you notice actually he has the Fireman Avenger up there too, so he's still thinking he can play it if things go well in this next pack.
His curve is really needs some help here. It's quite high. I didn't realize how high it was.
Nor did I actually. So I'm gonna amend my statement there. So I mean, he does have the 2 Orzhov Orzhov Key Runes, so that helps him skew it a little bit the other direction. But yeah, he actually really just wants a couple Screechers.
And it looks like
or Syndicate Tithes.
So he looks like he's still planning to splash the red over the blue, which you'd like. Is Fireman Avenger enough stronger that it's better than Horror plus Broker?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. But he is a better setup with that. He does have the Dimir Gilgate to splash the blue. So interesting to see what he does here. This will be a really interesting first pick for Gerard. Going in a lot of directions. This is going to be really telling for kind of what shape his third pack's going to go. He's hoping for like a premier 2 or 3 drop is what he really wants.
Right, so like another Basilica Screecher would be
or Syndicate Tithes, yeah. I think that's what he really wants. Or obviously a rare bomb, but
another 5 alarm fire.
Right, well, a pet for him.
What's your opinion on 5 alarm fire?
So our opinion in the house was that it was really bad, and then Paul Rietzel sent out this email to kind of his Boros, the Book of Boros, if you will, from Paul, which obviously as Paul is a specialist in Boros, knows what he's talking about, and he had the card actually rated like pretty highly. It was the best card in my deck at the Pro Tour in my Boros draft by a mile. It was unbelievable for me. I was really blown away.
First pick it at this point in drafting, or it's possible?
It's certainly possible. I mean, you definitely take all the kind of premier creatures over it still, but it's kind of like a 5-point scale. It's like a 3.7.
Did you get to activate it twice?
They always died.
In the game? Okay.
I did cast it and immediately attack with 5 creatures and then kill them with it twice, which was awesome. Kind of the dream scenario. But it's great in the Boros decks that have a very low curve, which is what you always want. But like my deck had some clunkers. It had like a couple of the red 1-drops and some of the bomber cores, which really helped it get turned on because it made my less powerful cards better.
So here's that prism we were talking about.
You don't really want it to second pick it? Ooh, never mind. We're slamming that consuming aberration here, I think.
At this point, I'm fine leaving the angel in the sideboard to play the aberration, and I hope he doesn't make one of the other 2 picks here.
So there's an argument for Angelic Edict. He knows he's a little letter removal. He might just want to say, hey, I'm going to make my mana a little more conservative and just take the safer card in the removal spell. I think Consuming Aberration is good enough that you take it here.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't fault Gerard if he takes Angelic Edict here, actually.
But it wouldn't be Prism.
I would not. You can't take Prism here.
Lay out your pack to your left.
Takes Aberration.
All right. So now basically all he needs is some low drops and maybe some kills.
Let's round out this curve a little bit. Pick up like an Orzhov Charm. Pick up a. Nope. Ooh,
oh,
there we
well,
go.
Okay. That's a pick. That's.
Kim.
That's just a gift.
Definitely taking the 1,000 lashes here.
That card, I at least in my book, I think it's the top Orzhov uncommon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing's coming to mind as being clearly better. It's obviously very good.
You have the Confessor, the Guild Mage.
It's better than both of those for sure. Yeah, I mean, Gerard's deck is really shaping out nicely here.
5 seconds.
I'm curious to see him shaking his head there. I wonder if he thinks his deck's shaping up nicely, because I certainly like where he is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we both are still in agreement that like he needs more low drops.
Another Executioner Swing would be optimal, I think, right now.
Yeah.
You really want some way to be able to kill something on 2.
Prism is nice. It may come back to
there
get
we
him.
go. Gotta take the Devour Flesh.
That he didn't remember earlier on. He didn't get as many corpse blockades as we were hoping.
Yep.
And that might be something that maybe he was wishing he had now.
I think it fits in perfectly what he wants to be doing. He really wants another creature you can play early that will gum up the ground. And here, I mean, he certainly. I think part of the frustration he's feeling is that these Prisms are showing up in packs where he can't take them.
Right.
Because he has to take other spells, and they're showing up in packs where they're probably not going to table from them, which is pretty unfortunate for Gerard. Because you see him, he really wants more Prism. He knows he does.
He's putting it to the front each time, and this is our 3rd pick, I think, or 4th pick. Yeah.
That would be way easier than trying to figure out how to carry that.
So here we see
nothing playable yet. A Flux Mage, but he doesn't really want to splash for that.
And this is not the Shadow Slice kind of. So I guess you're taking the blue-black Guild Gauge or the Strider. I'm not sure which one's better in his deck.
Normally I like the Strider in the style deck. I don't know how much Extort he actually has ended up with.
He has 2 pets and a Screecher, and
a Guards. He has a Guards.
And a Guards, but he did not take the Throw Parasite, right?
He has a Confessor, so he's at 5.
Okay, so that's not. We see him take the Guild Mage, which I agree with there.
Yep.
I mean,
it's unreliable to cast on 2, but I think anything that costs 2 right now, even a 50% 2-drop is probably something he's in the market for.
He really wants one more Dimir Gilgate actually now, almost more than a Prism, because especially with that 2-drop, he wants a shot to be able to play it on 2. And here, wow, it's a late Fathom Seer, but he has to take the 2/5.
Yeah. It's a lot of 5-drop for him.
And his mana is really getting a little skewed here, but hopefully he gets lucky and picks up the...
You still take the Drake over, say, like a Sprite, just the power levels enough.
Yeah, you can't cast Sprite in this deck. Like, we only are playing 4 blue sources. You want your splash cards that be high impact.
To be fair, is blue still the splash color?
Yeah, with the pets
I guess
and
with all the gold
guard,
cards,
he can't try to become Dimir splashing white. Here we see actually
It's a 2-drop. There is another extort card, so this is actually an interesting pick. Typically, it'd be the Syndicate Enforcer.
Can't take that here. I think the curve's too high, and I think our power level's high enough that we don't want to.
We should just take Letter Skulk. I would agree.
Or even, again, if he wants to play that Angel, he can take the land. Oh, here we see him taking the extort card, which is, to be fair, normally correct.
Normally, right.
You just take every extort card you see, and you hope that you have a deck out of them. So I don't fault that pick, but I think Gerard's curve keeps creeping up, and he's going to end up regretting having. Oh, that's really good.
That's a great gift for him.
Do not take that Gilgate, Gerard.
Yeah,
Let's gamble with our mana a little bit. Let's make sure when we actually draw our mana, we win the game. And I think the throw is exactly what he wants. Yeah, he obviously agrees.
I mean, it's awkward that all the mana fixing has come in packs where he has live cards.
Right, which is so frustrating for him, I'm sure. Now here, we really want the Prism to come back. And if we get one of these Prisms on the wheel, our deck's going to be very good. Corpse Upgate's certainly fine.
Interesting, so the 5-alarm fire has wheeled around the table.
I think the consensus opinion is that it's not very good from people I've talked to. And that was my opinion to start with too, until Paul both told me and I tried, whoa, what are we doing?
So he just doesn't see himself running the Corpse Blockade.
He doesn't think it's playable, I guess. I think he's off there.
I don't know, when I started drafting for the Pro Tour, I thought 5-alarm fire was a bomb, and then I slowly crept into it really dropped fast for me, and now it's rising again. But it certainly is an interesting card.
Gosh, I can't believe that pick. Hating a 5-alarm fire, overtaking
the
a 3-drop defensive creature that we really need. I think that was a mistake.
Pick up your backup.
But I mean, at the same time, Gerard clearly has a good plan. He knows what deck he's trying to get. He has a vision for his slots, and I think that's a really important way to be drafting.
I don't know about that. That pick I was also a little curious on. Normally, I understand that blue is a splash color. I just don't actually see us playing the Nav Squad Commandos.
They already have one too.
Right.
I think there's also guys like this guy who's the same card.
We already have a lot. We have a Consuming Aberration. We have a Vizkopa Confessor, a Sapphire Drake, a Primordial, Denrova Horror. More 2-Strider is a complete gift here. May make the cut.
Might play that.
Draft.
Yeah.
Pass your last card.
So I think in retrospect, I think George's draft, I think he got pretty actually unlucky. I think as the draft progressed, I think just not being able to get any free shot at a mana fixer if you really wanted.
So he's got issues like